I very frequently get asked why the frames and wheels of German steam locomotives are painted bright red, and looking at the colors most other countries use, that is a very valid question. So, let's try and trace back the roots of this unusual color choice. Generally, colored paint helps to spot cracks in the metal and therefore to prevent potentially catastrophic accidents. Both older cracks, which filled in with oil and grime, appear darker than the paint around them, as well as those that are just beginning to form, which appear brighter. But you don't necessarily have to use red paint for that. And the red paint wasn't always there either, at least not the bright one. While it is near impossible to know for sure which colors the first locomotives in Germany were painted in, considering most of them were privately owned and operated, the development from the late 19th century onwards is fairly well recorded. One of the first documents giving clear paint instructions is a Prussian direction from 1883, from right around the time Prussia began the long process to standardize its railways. Therefore, it must be presumed that similar, if not the same colors, had already been in use before, just not as consistently. And this document mentions dark green for everything above the running board, pretty much the standard color for steam locomotives at that time almost everywhere, and red-brown for the frame and wheels. The same color as preserved models built and painted in Prussian workshops show, minus 1.5 century of changing manufacturing methods of course, that is to this day used for goods wagons. And that makes totally sense, considering red-brown is a very dark and rich color that both hides dirt and grime very well, while still showing cracks moderately well, and also being resistant against weathering. And from documents of other German state railways, we know that most of them used the same, or at least a similar color for their locomotive frames and wheels too. Even the Bavarians did. At least occasionally. When in 1920 the Deutsche Reichsbahn, the national railway of Germany, was formed, initially Prussian paint practices were continued, but discussions about a new livery for steam locomotives began shortly after, not least due to economical reasoning. Back in the 1920s, red-brown paint couldn't yet be produced from domestic materials, requiring imports, increasing the price, while bright red paint could be produced using just domestic resources. So finally in 1926, a new, much cheaper and simpler livery was introduced, the iconic black and red. Deep black paint for everything above the running board, without any bordering like it was done with the green paint scheme, and either fire red or later carmine red for everything below. And while black is an obvious choice for hiding all kinds of dirt and grime, and therefore is very common internationally, especially in the later years of steam, with bright red, that is very different. Not only shows it very clearly the slightest stains, it is also very prone to fading, an issue that to this day paint manufacturers weren't able to fully resolve, as everyone commuting with trains of the Deutsche Bahn AG knows. But visibility is indeed the key. Not only shows this bright colored dirt very well, it is also in the sweet spot of showing older cracks that might have been missed with a darker red-brown, while still being dark enough to contrast against freshly forming cracks. But it is also very visible to the human eye, and has long become a warning color in transportation. As such, the color was intended to emphasize the movement of all the moving parts, as well as the dangers arising from them, to ultimately keep people away, despite the railway enthusiasts having quite the opposite effect. A bright thank you goes to my channel members Contrian, Dave Heise, Flipschwip, Kay Frankly and Lucas Ilskens for supporting what I do. You can support me too by becoming a channel member, leaving a like or simply having a look at my other videos. And as always, many more are yet to come. See ya!